started. Hello, 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 and welcome to pretty much a follow-up series, uh, more or less. I just wanted to do a little bit of world building, more onto Fekal, less of world building, I would say. Like, not really so much world building as some things I'm remembering, some things are already have been set in stone. Hmm. I don't remember. Like, so, I know what I want. Okay. I can tell you that. Why is it still not working on that? What? Oh, there we go. I can tell you that this little region right here is basically more or less going to be like a China nation, like China, and that's how it's going to be simulated as. And the fact that it has a bunch of dynasties that rise up and fall, and that they stay fairly local to this region for a long period of time. However, they have almost at all times in all periods of history a large amount of influence on the area because of their sheer size and strength, and they are able to have the size because they are more or less a jungle nation. It's the idea is more of what if all of China was settled basically in a Vietnam-like area, or like what if Vietnam was 100 times larger? That's a bit too far, but I don't care about these right here. Can I actually? Okay, there we go. Just shave that off a little bit. Of course, just like real life China, what that basically ended up happening was you had huge amounts of people. Well, actually, I'm not edit the territory. Hold on. You would end up having huge amounts of people, like insane amounts of people, densely populated. Dang. Huge amounts of people in dense populations, lots of different cities right by this river, and you know, the administration, they did develop a bureaucracy just to attempt to keep track of all of their people, the population, the trade that would come in from this, depending on the dynasty and the era, and just, sometimes luck. Sometimes it would be accurate, sometimes it wouldn't be accurate. Right here we do have an empire, and I'm not going to name this empire. I'm not going to give it specifically a name. And this isn't due to laziness. This is due to simply the fact that later on the name of the empire and where the empire comes from gets forgotten because the capital gets moved and it gets divided up among a bunch of different people that start fighting over it. So, I'm not going to name it, because if you have the name recorded beforehand, it kind of ruins the fact that the people forgot it later on. And no, I legitimately came up with the idea of, what if there was a old kingdom, like I think I have it in the other video that I showed you. This is Fekal, basically the land of Fekal, the world of Fekal. In the year 500, or about 580, I'm gonna write that over here. 182. This original this was originally created on a very early version of this game, back when it was only allowed to have like 20 different nations. Some really small number like that, and now you can have, I don't think they have a limit necessarily, but now you can have a bunch. So now I can properly simulate the actual land, like what was actually going on here. So what we will do is we will go back to because I did this to show that it's supposed to be jungles. They don't have any forest or jungle here. I don't want to make it desert and tundra because that doesn't make sense. Jungles obviously mean it's hard to travel through. There's a lot of diseases. They're right by rivers, so flooding is tremendous. However, there's a bunch of trees. Trees mean you have wood, which means you can build walls. So they could survive there. It just meant that spreading influence and actually having the empire itself move and maintain land beyond the river points is very difficult. Realistically, having this over here being simulated as part of the empires, not very accurate. What would be more accurate is that these lands right in between here were vassals of the dynasty of the empire over here, and I will just name the empire because the main one that I've been doing is the Sinoan, but the Sinoan exists in the 1400, and I'm fairly certain that the Sinoan is only in the 1400. Or is it Shinon? It might be Shin. I'm trying to remember these names, because I actually had... Is it Shinpei? 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 Oh. Gosh darn. There we go. Jinpei. What is on my keyboard? Alright. Dynasty. Okay. And we'll go to the diplomatic view. Or not the diplomatic view. Okay, there we go. This right here, this is a desert. This giant desert. At this start date, doesn't really do anything. These are just marches. I'm not even really gonna bother to name them. Yeah, so these guys don't do a whole lot. There is a lore here. Not a lot of lore. There's two major factions that are fighting in this. These are just tribes. Oasis tribes. Or Oasis kingdoms and tribes. And, struggling for resources and whatnot. And the Empire. These are mountains over here. So the Empire basically got to the mountains and were like, yeah, there's nothing on the other side, so we're not gonna bother. They weren't too wrong from it, But these guys do end up uniting, and they do make a horde. And the horde does end up invading. And when they do invade, they create their own little situation here. They end up killing the Emperor. The Emperor dies. The Empire splits between his 3 sons, who all immediately start trying to fight each other. And since they're all trying to fight each other, the land falls into chaos, ruin, and war. And the Kithicals just keep marching in. They don't go too far. They are stopped by the Fekal people that are in this region over here. But they don't become a people, or they don't really become important because they really were a vassal or march in practice, but there's no real point to show them as such in this version of the map. Also, the map looks a bit different from the original map I showed you guys because I remembered that I was completely missing a whole section. And it extends a bit more in a crescent shape. Anyways, let me go ahead and edit not the terrain, but the territory itself. Might maybe kind of want to shimmy that on down. I'm not gonna make it too perfect. They can have a race over who gets the stuff in between. It's not important what they have, but in the fact that they're in a relatively realistic shape. You're annoying. Okay, there we go. These guys are kind of interesting. They're interesting because they happened. Not because they do anything, but more or less interesting because they happened. I'm going to click on this city right here. They're interesting because they happened. But, there you go. Craolite. Oh, what should I say? What should I say? I forgot the word set. Alright, I will just name it Craolites. Craolites. The Craolites and the Caducevites, they're not enemies of each other necessarily. They're not exactly friends with each other either. Crael does end up having a very long and very bloody civil war and civil conflict that just kind of absolutely ravages the land, ravages the area, forces people even around them to kind of back off from the region. Trade kind of stops. It's just really bad. It's more or less, the Craolite people just argued over religion stuff, who deserves to be saved, who doesn't, who can be, who cannot be saved, or who should be in charge. The South Craolites down here, they argued everybody can be saved, everybody. A priest from any land and any people can lead. The religion, of course, tells them it's not important who leads. What's important is that you help each other, that you have community and whatnot. But big giant land is not going to be. Why are those two? There we go, Crayon. Now, South Korea does not come about. Can I? Get rid of the nation here. Okay. I will indeed do this real quick though. I will also create North Korea. And the reason is that, like I said, the religion itself is a peaceful religion. But that doesn't mean everybody always agrees on everything, so if these guys can't get their stuff together, it means they might have an issue on their hands. Because, the Kraelites are people that began over here, migrated over here, and started basically preaching everywhere. These guys are also Kraelite. Kraelite is a religion. It's not a culture, but the culture group. There's a culture group called Kraelite. There's multiple cultures in this culture group. In this culture group, now you have loosely related cultures in the south, but not the same culture as the people in the north. And the people in the north basically got, how do you call it, pompous, entitled, and decided that, hey, we should be, we should be in charge here, not you guys. And the people in the south were like, what? That doesn't matter? Why do you care? What are you talking about? And I'm going to spawn a bunch more over here. Because these guys are never supposed to be united. Like, ever. Bunch. Have these guys as a vassal of them. Now, there's no nation that's really important over here. These nations are somewhat important, but not that much. They're somewhat important because they do participate in the struggle over here. Because they participate in the struggle, they end up losing. And because they lose, they get vassalized by the Kithical Empire. And that's the only thing that's important. The Kithical Empire goes over here. This area is like the savannah. Like, it's not that you can't grow food here. There's not a lot of rivers here. It's not that there's nothing here. There's stuff here. It's just not a lot. And you don't want to go here, alright? It's not. You should never go here when you can't live here. You don't want to be here though. So they looked at all this. They vassalized these guys and they said, not worth it. Because they would also have to fight all of these different people. They looked on this side and they saw that these guys actually had farms. These are just tribes over here, basically just tribes. Copper Age into maybe the Iron Age. These guys were basically the Steel Age, basically the Roman Empire. And the Kithicals saw all the farmland, all the people here, all of the goods that they could take, and they decided to take them. And they did. But right now they don't exist. A bunch of random lands here. this is what we're going to do here. And yes. It shall be chaos. Join / alliance. Add these guys. Alright, where's 2? Okay. Where are these guys? Oh, there. Alright. Yeah, that makes sense. Where's the other guys? Okay. Now, not everybody is in or on one of these two sides. Perfect, perfect. Which means many, many different things are going to be overcomplicated by it, which is amazing. Wonderful, wonderful. These guys are like a Russia / Sweden in practice. They're a gag group more or less. They're like if dwarves, Sweden, and Russia all kind of amalgamated as a culture. So, where is it? Kadushvat. I like it. Yes, yes, Kadushvat. Okay. These are also a culture group, mostly one culture. There is a major culture here. Of the Hardy Hills and the mountainous area. You might have noticed, you might not. They mostly follow these mountains, these right here. Their religion isn't about mountains. It's about really, really, really good alcohol. Their whole thing is that these guys and their various peoples and alliances and kingdoms, at first they behaved a lot like Greece. They didn't have a king. They didn't have one center, but it was more or less of, hey, they're Kadush fight. You stay out of Kadush fight land. And, yeah, that's basically it. But they did have an important king who basically everybody agreed that this guy was the model Kadush fight. Like, this is exactly how and who a Kadush fight is. And he ended up going to an island because these guys settled the islands. Lore about the islands maybe in a minute. But he went to an island, and there was a temple on the island, and those people had some really good alcohol. And he and his little boat party, his retinue, had some of this alcohol, and they had the best time of their life. And they're like, yo, they went back there like, yo, I had the best alcohol. This is the best ale ever. And they built their entire personality is built around that. Like their entire personality is built around now that they are going to try to attempt the recolonization of the islands to find this alcohol. probably not going to be very successful. Did they have this island? I think they never lost the island, so what I will do is I will give them this island. It's not that they never had troubles, which I guess I'll talk about now. So, long time ago, way longer than this, think about 400 years before this even, uh, before there was ever actual Craolites, the Craolite religion, but still the Craolite people, the major culture group, but not the Craolite religion. So pretty old, pretty long ago. All of these islands were settled by the various people. So you had the Craolites, some other people, South Craolites, the Jinpei dynasty, or the dynasties over here. These guys, they all settled. Hold on. I don't want the diplomatic. Well, I do want the diplomatic. I don't want the terrain. There we go. I like them being a bit more bright color, like so. Yeah. And we will allow them to be blue. Blue and red is really accurate for the Kadushites. Blue for the cold. They embrace the cold. Red is the color of their banners, and they do have blue on their banners. Some people have blue, but it's really those two colors. Again, blue for cold. Red is the color of the royalty and the color of the warrior tribes, really. So, I didn't change it. I didn't want to change it. That was an appropriate color I had beforehand. That was already generated, but I'll make it blue because it just looks better with everything else in the area. Alright, then nothing has to be here, but I will spawn a few more here. So basically, the various people here settled on these islands and on these atolls. It's a glorious, almost golden age. Right, okay. Something kind of happened to where, and this is a glorious age, I say. This is like the age of steel in this. Like, you have the Roman Empire type age, for the world. So people have steel that is common. However, before this, it was more of like the Bronze Age, and they were settled in this world. Aluminum is a lot more common than copper. That's not true in real life. But because aluminum was more common, like they could just grab rocks, and when they heated those rocks, aluminum would just drip out. So they used aluminum before they used copper. And then they found copper. Well, depended on the areas. Most areas down here, there's a lot of aluminum in this area, and I have to repopulate this area because I couldn't properly do it. It looks so sad. Yeah, there's a lot of aluminum down there. There's some aluminum up here. There's a lot of aluminum in the Jinpei. There's a lot of aluminum on a few of these islands here. So, really the only place that doesn't have a lot of aluminum is, Natsuki. So, on this side, I don't want to say east or west necessarily, I guess. on this map, it looks to be, wow, wow, okay, it looks to be west, okay. However, people and the way the magnetic poles work is that, this is how the people that made maps, who I'll talk about later, the people made maps that looked like this, in this orientation, because their compasses pointed this direction, right? No, hold on, what? That's the opposite of what happened. What am I thinking about? Why was it like this? I don't remember. Basically, this is actually north. These guys are in the north. This is called Natsuki. This is Esne. This is Wesne. This is Sutki. Kind of lazy, I know, but huh. Esne, Wesne, Natsuki, Sutki. Wonderful nations. That island is kind of important. I had these guys ferociously stayed independent, even though it's actually a small island. It's supposed to be like this size, and this is also bloated. This is supposed to be like that size, so I guess the more accurate representation is this island is supposed to be like this size, but if I made it that small, they wouldn't be able to get as much power, so I decided to bloat it up, kind of like how they do on Greenland in most like games and maps. Greenland isn't that big in real life. It's not that big. But they make it look bigger because, well, it looks better and it is kind of important for the ports and stuff like that. So what we're gonna do here, I don't care what they fight over. I'm gonna grab this. I don't care what you fight over, but understand that this land right here is your land. This land right here is your land. You're gonna hate your life. These guys are very important. These guys are the guys that makes maps. These guys are the people who, they're the historians, if you will. They're the, how do I put this? They're merchants. They're a merchant people. They have a very dirty history. Very, very dirty history. Lots of bad stuff. And they started out by selling other humans and other tribes. And, eventually the emperor came about. And when the emperor came about, there was a separate island tribe. Each of these islands is owned by their own king slash tribe. One of these islands, I can't remember which. I would have to go look it back up. One of these islands, they specialized in instead of having our people being sold off as, like slaves, let's have our people, train themselves to fight. And then when they trained themselves to fight, they said, well, instead of, selling other people, we could just sell ourselves as warriors since we fight so well. And everybody else said, bet. And the emperor was like, well, I'll make you guys officially my royal guards. So they're just known as the warrior people, basically. All islands, their whole theme is that they have something that they specialize in selling. One of them sells war. One of them still specializes in selling people. One of them specializes in selling food. One of them specializes in selling tools and materials, like industry, if you would. The Emperor sells authority in a way. The main island here. I don't want to spend time coloring it in, but it just looks so weird without it colored in, so I'm gonna just color it in a little bit. I'm not gonna bother naming them right now. Not most of them, anyways. Put two whole entries, but not one, but two. These guys did end up having a lot more autonomy. The reason why they ended up having more autonomy is because they were able to expand, and they were more heavily part of the merchant. So these guys over here, they traded the most with the Europeans. Like, their whole tribe, their whole kingdom really tried to focus on getting their merchants to Krael, to the Caduceite people, and to the Empire. That's where they wanted to go. Going through the desert was a death sentence. Going through the tribes was a pain in the butt. Going through these tribes were a pain in the butt. Basically, they discovered that they could sail by boat through here, and of course, oh, I didn't finish talking about the islands. My bad. Kind of. Of course, you did have chaos that erupted because these islands were founded during the beginning of the Bronze Age, and with the Bronze Age came the idea of a republic. In this world, a republic was never truly practiced, and the attempt to practice it failed. Um, there's nobody really at fault, I should say, but basically, the Caduceites had some people into here. Again, there was no proper kingdom, and when it came to the islands, it was more as like the islands were viewed as a wild, wild west. It wasn't more or less, oh, this is Kraelite island, this is Kraelite land, this is the dynasty land, this is these guys' lands. No, no, no. This was more or less viewed as, here's the Wild West Islands, and this island just so happens to have Kraelite people on it. And that's the way people viewed it, because that's the way it happened. It's not like people had a lot of administrators that they could properly keep track of everything out here. So, when chaos and an age of just rebellion, backstabbing, civil unrest, disease, all of the above happened, war, people started fighting everybody, right? And in this free-for-all, they lost control of the islands. This specifically happened more on the islands than it did in the actual kingdoms. There was, one of the catalysts was one of the dynasties fell, and they died, and they had a civil war. It wasn't the cause of everything, but it definitely did not help. And it definitely sped things up a lot more than it would have if it didn't happen. But then again, they have a dynasty cycle, so it was bound to happen anyways. the blame can't really be put on them. There's no blame to be had here, other than the people that decided to go crazy and literally just started to just wanton murder. Just murder for the sake of murder at times. These guys are part of the alliance, right? Yep, okay, cool. Now time for these guys. Tomal Kingdom. Yes, okay. Schmidto. These guys have light blue. Very strong, very powerful kingdom. Their main drawback is that they never truly developed. My bad. They are more or less to simulate an Ethiopia. They never truly developed a bureaucracy, if you will, like an administration. It did develop, but it wasn't as professional, if you will, and as fleshed out as like the Jinpei or even the Imperials. So they admittedly didn't need it for the kingdom they currently had. The size of it was fairly manageable, but to do and to expand anyways outside of here was kind of just going to prove to be counterproductive. So they didn't do it. They didn't try to expand too much until the Shinoans arrived. The Shinoa were the first people to actually take the islands over and then try to colonize, and they attempted to do a recolonization period, and Creel was one of the only people who, as you can see, were actually able to keep an island, not really due to anything miraculous other than the fact that the people on the island still worshipped the religion of the Creel when the Creolite religion came about. So, yes, the whole founding the islands happened before the religion, because it happened before the religion. During the chaos ended only 300 some odd years ago, and the chaos period was a period of like 50 years. But after that chaos period, everybody basically cut ties with the island. Like, with all the islands. They basically said, nope, not even gonna try to go over there to see what's going on. Forget getting taxes from them, forget having a vassal over there, forget trading with those guys. We're not even going to attempt to make a map of what's going on over there. They literally painted over, here be dragons. They knew there was islands over here, but it was like they were cursed. More kingdoms, more tribes. More tribes. That one's special. It's literally... These islands had as names on them. That's these guys' names. I'm actually gotta rename him, but that's after I spawn in a few more over here. Yeah. I still remember the time that you could only spawn in like 20 at once. There you go. That looks appropriate. Oh, yeah, so these guys, they traded with the Empire and the Creole, and that was their focus, going around the islands. Basically, they made outposts on these two. They were not able to do a whole lot, but they did end up making outposts over here. They did end up making outposts over here and settling into here because they had this area available to them. They were then able to trade by land on a giant road and many different routes all the way through into here and back. They did try to go on by waterway. They did attempt to stop by every now and then. They're the only people that didn't fully give up on it on the islands, but ultimately it was not fruitful. Not fruitful at all. That's how they kept a lot of autonomy. I was renaming him. Esnaean Emperor. The way he kept his... Hold on, my bad, hold on. Emperor. Alright. The way these guys in the south kept their independence, their freedom, if you will, is they basically ended up colonizing down here. These guys, this is a place that still specializes in selling people. The reason why they still specialize in selling people is because, well, all of these guys down here, they're tribes. This is also like sub-Saharan Africa as well. This is like the Sahara Desert. And this is basically another giant desert. So yeah. That should be, oh, I got the name right, nice. Okay, submit. Please do replace it. It was heavily outdated. I have no confidence in this. puppet.